So here's my thing, Sammy, is that I really truly believe that the combine and all this talk that goes around during the NFL draft season will end up eventually benefiting the Chicago Bears, because two players that I think that Chicago would really benefit from drafting. We're talking about Mason Graham. We're talking about Will Campbell. Like, for whatever reason, scouts or whatever, and all these teams get into the fact of like, they don't watch tape, or they watch tape and they're like, this guy's a great player. And then they go to the combine like, oh my God, his arm's a quarter inch too short. He can't play football anymore. And I understand there are some attributes that you want. I feel like some guys go to the combine and kill it and they elevate themselves. Like, think about guys like John Ross, who a couple of years ago, you're like, who was that guy again? Like, yeah, exactly. The guy who ran like a 4.140. The Bengals drafted him 9th overall. And I think at the end of his career, he was converted to defensive back, trying to hang on. Whereas somebody like Cooper Kupp years ago goes out, is a great college player, kills it at the Senior Bowl, and then goes to the Underwear Olympics, doesn't perform as well, and then he goes to the third round, but ends up winning a Super Bowl MVP. So if these teams are willing to let either Mason Graham or Will Campbell, maybe both of them, fall to the Bears at number 10, you do not hesitate to pick them. I think that's a slam dunk, but we got so much to talk about. Sammy, why don't we just go ahead and start the show then?
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast with Adam Rank.
It's Hester trying to work it back to the middle. Gets past the first wave, and here he goes. It's Hester inside the 30. Hester's going to take it all the way for a touchdown. And no flag, 92 yards.
The sickest Chicago Bears and fantasy football podcast. Sports entertainment like no other. It's gonna be sick.
Hey everybody, welcome to the weekend edition of the Sick Podcast with Adam Rank. Great show lined up for you here today. Scott Bair of the Marquee Network will be joining us here in just a matter of moments, but just want to reiterate some big news that was happening over the course of this week. The NFL owners meetings down in Florida. It feels like more and more we're angling towards a stadium in Arlington Heights. That is something we're going to be just talking about today. But before we do that, I want to remind everybody that if you are a fan of trading cards, the best place to get trading cards is Windy City Sports Cards. At Windy City Sports Cards, we specialize in buying and selling all things related to Chicago sports. Whether you are a diehard fan of the Bears, Bulls, Cubs, White Sox, Blackhawks, Sky, Fire, whomever, we have got you covered with an extensive selection of sports memorabilia and collectibles. And in addition to their Chicago-focused items, they also offer a wide range of other things. Like, let's say, for instance, you love Bijan Robinson. You could probably go to Windy City Sports Cards, get a Bijan Robinson rookie card right now, and you'll be very pleased with that. Mike is the best in the business, and it's not just Chicago sports. But I bring up Atlanta for a reason here, because recently the Marquee Network here in Chicago that does all the great coverage for the Chicago Bears is now starting to turn its attention to the Chicago Cubs, now turning their attention to the Chicago Bears. And to do so, they went out there and got one of the best writers in the NFL, and we're going to be bringing them on right now. So please welcome for the Marquee Sports Network, Scott Bair. I mean, like, as somebody whose last name is Rank and does fantasy football, people always be like, is that your real last name? Anybody who grew up with me going out to Coronita Elementary School will confirm my last name has been the same. Bair, it just seems a fait accompli that you would eventually be covering the Chicago Bears, yeah?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you very much for the kind intro. Check is in the mail. And two, yeah, it just seemed like destiny. Chargers, Raiders, Falcons, that doesn't really jive, but all the puns that we use on Marquee Sports Network, thanks to my last name, I should definitely get a royalty check for that.
Yeah, you know what? Like, I just I do a segment with CHGO. We call it Ranks a lot. We have Take It to the Rank, and like all these things, like it always plays. And so for you, it's just a matter of time. I remember when you were with the Chargers, and I'm like, how is a Bear with the Chargers, and then you went to the Falcons, but you just started with the Chicago Bears. And I guess this leads me to my first question is obviously you have a lot of time here in the NFL. You're been around league circles and everything like that. Now that you, in your limited time now, you got a chance to speak to Kevin Warren and speak to some of the Bears brass. What has been your impression of the Bears so far? And is it kind of shattered the mental image that you had of the Bears from the outside now that you're kind of now an insider?
Yeah, definitely. When I first got here, you're in the third largest media market, and the Bears are this legacy franchise, more than 100 years old, and every other team that I'd ever covered came in 1960, right? So the level of history, the level of kind of awe around it. There's a statue of George Halas out front. It felt big. And then you get involved with it, and I'm going to say some not so nice things about Matt Eberflus. So hopefully he's not on your Christmas card list. But then I get in there, and I see a regime and a coaching staff that is scared of his own shadow and runs away from adversity, claiming no fault of their own. And I really thought this team doesn't get it. And they didn't understand the asset that they had in Caleb Williams. They didn't know how to use them. They didn't know how to coach them. They didn't know how to deal with the Hail Mary that essentially torpedoed their season to the course of a 10-game losing streak. I say all that to say this. Over the last 6 weeks, I've gone through a complete and total mindset shift. And you know why? Because Ben Johnson is here. I've been around for a long time. I covered Marty Schottenheimer, okay? Yeah. I look young, but I'm old. Covered Marty Schottenheimer, Norv Turner, Jack Del Rio, Dennis Allen, you name it. John Gruden even. So I can tell when a guy's going to last about 15 seconds and half of his cup of coffee. I can also tell when a guy gets it. Ben Johnson gets it, man. He's got a command. He's got a confidence. He's got a way about him that for a first-time head coach is very rare. So when I came in, I had this impression of the vaunted Bears franchise.
Yeah,
the guys who are running it, and they were going to run it into the ground. And now this new tone that's been set by Ben Johnson. We haven't seen him win a single game. He hasn't conducted a single practice, Adam. So there is room for things to go wrong. But this guy has what it takes, in my opinion, from 17 years of NFL experience to get it done. That's why my mindset is completely flipped.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, because I know that I'm often accused of being a little bit of a shill because, I mean, obviously working for the NFL, I'm never going to come out and like really just take a swing at an owner. But I always felt like the McCaskey family was never really, I felt that people always gave them a hard time. I never liked when people are like, sell the team, sell the franchise. Well, I'm like, you know what? The Ford family never sold the franchise. They just got a great hire with Dan Campbell. And all of a sudden, the Ford family looks like geniuses. For the Bears, though, throughout their history, and there is some reason for skepticism that the Bears would have been able to pull off a move like hiring Ben Johnson. Were you shocked when the Bears were able to get Ben Johnson in here?
Yeah, because just talking to so many people about the past hires, right, that they had never hired somebody with head coaching experience other than George Halas coming back and forth, right? But
John Fox, unfortunately.
Yes, and John Fox. But everything that I'd heard is when it comes down to it, are they, because there's no coaching salary cap, are they going to sign their name on the bottom of the check and have no other information on it? Just a blank one. There you go. And there's between 13.5 and 14 million reasons why George McCaskey put the resources available. He spoke at the NFL owners meetings. I got 5 to 7, 10 minutes with him after the main kind of press conference. Yeah. And one of the questions that I asked him was, did you tell Ryan and Kevin heading into this coaching search and into this time with $79 million in salary cap space? Okay, like salary cap space is like a figure. It's like you write it down on a chalkboard. Then there's actual cash, right, that you have to dispense in the form of signing bonuses and guaranteed money in escrow accounts, plus the head coach. Did you tell them money is no object. And he said, I didn't tell them that because I didn't think that I had to tell them that. I feel like they understand that my job is not the football guy. My job is to provide the resources available. Well, they obviously felt confident spending George McCaskey's money to the tune of, it's $14 million for one guy. We're not talking about Dennis Allen's not cheap, and the whole staff, and spending that salary cap space that's available in cash. And those two things I thought was a statement that spoke louder than anything George McCaskey has said in front of a microphone. He was willing to spend big. Will it work? I don't know. But he's at least willing to put his money down on the table to give Ryan Poles, Kevin Warren the opportunity to go out and get a big name like that.
Yeah, we're starting to see that from some of the other family-owned teams, right? Look at a team like the Bengals, who now are spending a little bit more money, although the negotiations with Trey Hendrickson are possibly going off the rails, but we'll see what happens there. But and even again, going back to the Lions spending the money that they need to do, it feels like the Bears have become a modern franchise. And we actually started to get some inklings of this a couple of years ago, where they did make a forward-thinking move by purchasing land at Arlington Heights, the former racetrack. And honestly, it's following a pattern that's similar to what the Rams did in Los Angeles, where they bought the former Hollywood Park racetrack, held on to it. Now SoFi Stadium is hosted a Super Bowl. We'll be hosting a Super Bowl here in a couple of seasons. Where are the Bears going to be playing football in the future?
Yeah, I still think so. We heard at the NFL owners meetings a shift. If you go back 12 months back, they had all the renderings and all the pretty pictures, and they saying that we're committed to building on the Chicago lakefront. And then fast forward to Wednesday, and then they're like, we are looking at two places, Arlington Heights, which is in the Chicago suburbs, for those who don't know, where they have that parcel of land that was former Arlington Park, or they have a couple other sites that have put forth renderings, most of them in the downtown Chicago area. They're definitely making a push. They said a lot of nice things about Arlington Heights, about their new mayor that just got elected, and the fact that it's quote unquote pad ready, which basically means that they've taken everything off of that land. And if you want to put a shovel in the ground, like President Kevin Warren has guaranteed by the end of this calendar year, that's a place where you can put a golden shovel in the ground, take some pictures, and cut some ribbon, right? You can do that there, and it's ready to go. And I think it's the path of least resistance. And when you've been doing this for as long as the Bears have been doing it, with the ultimate goal of this fixed roof stadium, and they're convincing the state of Illinois that you're missing out on Final Fours and UFC matches and Taylor Swift concerts and things like that, that you need to prove to them that this is what they're doing. And they are willing to put $2 billion on the table in private equity for construction. They need some infrastructure. I am long-winded as you're catching, so let me get back to this short answer. I think they're going to build in Arlington Heights. But I'm also back in this weird section of my body called my brain. There's some conspiracy theorists living in there. Yeah. And I also think, and this is just me talking, this isn't something that I asked a question about. This is just us shooting. Is this just like a leverage play? Because they really want to go to Chicago and they need the politicians there to bend the knee more than they do in Arlington Heights. Again, I think they're going to be in the burbs. I really do. Yeah. I've been around a bunch of stadium constructions. I saw the Chargers leave San Diego, the Raiders leave Vegas. I'm kind of like a black cloud when it comes to stadiums. But so I know this game. I know how it's played. I've seen it before. But when it comes to it, I just think Arlington Heights is easier. I think Chicago's got a lot of moving parts to it. I think they want to be down there, right? I really, really do. But I think ultimately Arlington Heights is probably the play, because not like the Bears are afraid of doing hard things, but I think it's just the easier and most logical choice.
Well, that's also the best opportunity for them to make money, right? Because they would be developed. They own the land. I mean, that's like, it reminds me of the time when Stan Kroenke bought Hollywood Park, and Bernie Meskowitz, or whomever the guy is in St. Louis, was like, oh, there's no way he would move the team to LA. I'm like, dude, the land's been when you own the land. And I remember the whole thing with St. Louis, like they leveraged both of those. When the Rams, Raiders, and Chargers were looking for a new stadium, they leveraged Las Vegas and Carson. Like, people forget, there's a site in Carson right across the freeway from where the Galaxy play. where the Chargers actually played some games for a couple of years, as you remember. They were playing all of those, but you knew that there was going to be a stadium in Inglewood. Like there, as much as went on, and I feel like the same thing's happening here with Arlington Heights because it makes too much sense. And it also was probably a reason why they're not afraid to throw money at Ben Johnson and Dennis Allen and all these other free agents this year.
Yeah, and that's if I could use a baseball example real quick. So when the Padres built Petco Park in downtown San Diego, they were owned by this guy named John Moores, who's a big tech guy. Well, he bought up all the land around it. He built hotels and bars and restaurants and everything on this land, right? And then after he built the stadium, he sold the team for a giant profit. Guess what he still owns? All the stuff around it. Right? Like all that stuff is still his. He's still making money on that investment. So to your point, you look at any kind of modern stadium, whether it's downtown or in the suburbs, you see the mixed use around it. And that's where the real gravy comes. And that comes all the time. So I do think all those things are factors. You're right. You're talking about a lot of land. Now, there are some examples of teams like the San Francisco 49ers, when they play on Sunday Night Football and they show a picture of the Golden Gate Bridge, which is 50 miles from Levi Stadium, right? Arlington Heights, it's not that far. I mean,
no. I equate it to Inglewood to downtown LA.
Sure.
It's almost the same.
Yeah. So when you're looking at it, I don't think that just because it's in the suburbs, that should be a 4-letter word. But I just think there's some sort of, we're talking about a legacy franchise here. I think there's some sort of draw to the roots of being, I mean, Soldier Field, if it wasn't 10 billion years old and, needs to be raised, the location, right? It's gorgeous. It's everything that you want in that type of stadium. It's where you want these mixed use of these other ancillary events to be. It's right there in one of the most beautiful big city in the country. So moving it away from that, there's always some draw, but there is a metro stop. They're going to need to do some infrastructure, but don't knock it till you really take a look at it. That's what I'm saying.
And football always plays better in the suburbs because that's where the people live and that's where the people are on Sunday. No disrespect to Terrence Young and our good friend who live out by Miller's Pub and everything like that. Like I know there are people who live in downtown Chicago. But I think by and large, people live in the suburbs. They want parking lots. They want tailgating. A lot of stuff that you're not really afforded by having a stadium in downtown, especially one that's on Sunday, which means you're not getting a lot of foot traffic. For me, and I always think the best thing too is like you created or you committed one of the ultimate sins when you tore down the original Comiskey Park, a place where, by the way, the Bears did play. The Bears did play again. They weren't the home team. The Chicago Cardinals were the home team, but the Bears played those. They played games there. So I did not make a flub when I was cutting my promo with Seth Rollins. For me, like that Chicago, like where Soldier Field is right now, and I feel like they ruined it when they did the reverb. I don't mind having a 60,000 seat stadium. I think that's cool because it allows us to not be overrun. When you talk about, like, I have a friend who I was hanging out with, who I was playing golf with today, who's a Rams season ticket holder. He's like, there's only one game every year that's not a home game for the other team, and it's the Cardinals. Every other game is overrun. The Bears, for as bad as we've been, we never have that. We're never overrun in our own stadium because it's smaller, our fans are better, and all that stuff. Still, you want to move out to the burbs. I say move the White Sox to Soldier Field. I wish they would figure that out and be like, you know what? I know the White Sox are looking at new stadiums. Like, why don't you put them at the museum campus with them, like part of the stadium looking downtown, part of the stadium looking on the water? Like that to me seems like the best thing to do. So I'm with you. I hope that Arlington Heights is the play. So I think we're both in agreement there. I do want to ask you though, the Bears drafting number 10. Do you think, what do you think they're going to do? Because when I look at this draft board, it's so wild to me because not only did the Bears cover a lot of bases in free agency, they got 3 new offensive linemen, they got a D tackle, an edge rusher. So now everything's in play. If Tyler Warren or Ashton Genty are available, do you think those are the guys that are on the Bears' radar, or do you think they're looking at the trenches still?
Well, just in terms of like really fun content, yeah, man, explosive skill players are really intriguing. The Tyler Warren-ness of it all, I just can't seem to shake it. Like that's my new obsession is watching Tyler Warren tape, and the guy's just, I don't know. He's not like the freakiest athlete that you've ever seen. He just does and he does everything well. He's my draft crush. I'm going to go ahead and admit it.
There it is. All right.
But do I think that that's what they're going to do? Or you brought up earlier, you talk about somehow that kid from Michigan, the defensive lineman, right?
Mason Graham?
Yeah, just like everybody's forgetting about how good he is. And I don't buy into the, I mean, I get arm length is like a thing. That's why Joe Tooney plays guard and not tackle. He's got 32 whatever inch arms. You watch any LSU tape? Will Campbell is an animal. He looks 14 years old, but he's a literal animal on the field. He's a technician and all those types of things. So I think that they've got options. But if Jane T and Tyler Warren are there, and you look at what Ben Johnson has done, I don't apples to apples people, but you look at what Ben Johnson has done with Jahmyr Gibbs and Sam Laporta, and you just think about it, and you're like, wow. And then your imagination starts running that they've covered all of their bases, and then they have this option. Now, here's the debate in my head that's being waged all the time. Fans want the best 2025 product humanly possible. That's all they care about. Are they going to win on September 9th or whatever? That's what they care about. So how can these players help the 2025 product? Maybe Will Campbell doesn't help the 2025 product very much. Maybe he loses a competition to Braxton Jones, or maybe that there are some different elements. That's why Ryan Poles gets paid the big bucks, right? That you have to think about this in like a rookie contract sort of scenario. But if Tyler Warren's there, it's just me. I've already professed it. I'm taking him no matter what. I think Ryan Poles is leaning on that too, despite the fact that I don't know if this is a popular opinion. I'm not exactly sure the starting left tackles on this team right now. I don't know. I really like Braxton Jones, but there's a possibility that they go big and swing for an offensive tackle, a true offensive tackle at 10, 39, or 41.
Yeah, I can't wait till we draft Will Johnson at number 10. That's going to be amazing. That is going to be so good.
You just watch my fan base's head explode.
There it is, and everybody's going to be so upset. But I do want to ask you one thing before I let you go. And the Bears are drafting 10th. If they had lost to Green Bay, they would be drafting 7th. They might have a better chance of getting Ashton Genty or Tyler Warren. Would you rather have? And I know that you're not. You cover the team. You're not a fan of the team. Would you rather have the win over Green Bay in Lambeau on an epic comeback for Caleb Williams, who in 4 previous attempts last season against the Commanders, Green Bay the first time, Detroit, Minnesota, their comeback efforts had fallen short? Would you rather have that win over Green Bay, or would you rather have 3 extra spots in the draft?
Okay, I didn't realize I've been a part of lots of rivalries just covering teams, right? Falcons, Saints, and 49ers, Rams, and Raiders against everybody, apparently.
Yeah.
I didn't understand what a rivalry, and normally rivalries happen like in the stands. That's always been my take. Bears, Packers, there's something different in the water going back and forth between these two teams. I mean, George McCaskey called the Packers team Voldemort, and he's kind of said it with a straight face. They don't like each other. Jalen Johnson doesn't like Christian Watson. There's a lot of real rivalry to this. So that's the only reason why I would take a Week 18 meaningless win in the context. And that's kind of how I feel about it. I also think you talk about some of those other comebacks that Caleb Williams got close, but no cigar. A couple of those weren't really his bad. I mean, the Minnesota one was, but gosh, he should have had Green Bay. He should have had Washington. Did great. But I think that there's something about putting that notch on the board that really means something to a quarterback. Look, there is no such thing as momentum from one year to the next. Don't let anybody tell you it's different. But there is a little bit of a confidence and swagger factor, and Caleb Williams has a lot of swagger and a lot of confidence. And to give that real world example to him is worthwhile. If it would have dropped them from 7 to 13 or 14, but they were sitting on top of the tiebreakers. So I think that win's valuable. Would I rather cover the number 6 or 7 pick? Sure, because now we can talk about everybody or trading back with a quarterback. I'm always thinking about those page views, man. But nonetheless, I do think that Week 18 win meant something. having that kick block was absolutely devastating to the franchise because it had been 11 straight. Now we're talking about 12, and we're talking about dominance in the division. So I do think it mattered, and I think they can get a really good player at 10. And they have still that draft capital. So yeah, I might be unpopular among my colleagues, but I'd say take the week 18 win. You still have a top 10 pick. You can still get an instant impact player right there.
So you're thinking like a fan, which is the way you should be. And there'll be some people who are always like, we would have yeah, I agree with you. And I know that there's an opportunity that Ashton Genty becomes Walter Payton, and we missed out on him because we won a game. I would never call it meaningless. I think it meant a lot, and I think it meant a lot to our fans. For everybody who could now be like, hey, Caleb Williams has never lost in Lambeau Field, all that kind of stuff. And you know what? Like, Ben Johnson came out, and Ben Johnson wasn't just like, beat the Packers. Like, I talked to Matt Nagy at the Super Bowl, and I'm like, what's the one piece of advice you would give to Ben Johnson?
Yeah.
And he goes, oh yeah, beat the Packers. Like, okay. Great clip, like whatever. Like they do, and they do it all. I'm sure that you've done this as well. You're like, beat the Packers. Deep dish is great, but tavern style is better. No ketchup on a hot dog. You're hitting all the high points. Ben Johnson came out and called out Matt LaFleur personally, said his name, and they're not boys. They're not friends.
They have no relationship at all.
It's not Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan. It's an unprovoked attack, and I think that shows you how serious this rivalry is. I know that you mentioned Chargers, Raiders, and all that stuff. But this is and I know LaDainian Tomlinson legitimately hated the Raiders. You and I could both attest to this from personally talking to him, both of us. We know that. But this is a whole team of LaDainian Tomlinsons and how they feel about the Raiders. So I'm with you. I would take that win any day of the week.
Yeah. And let's not forget, Ashton Janty's really, 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 really good. I'm sure that you have ranked, see with the pun that I did there, him really high. The North Carolina kid, Omarion Hampton, he can boogie too.
Ohio State running backs, like there's so many ways. There's so many ways we can go with this. So I feel pretty confident with that. While I have you here, I love, you're such a great talker. Ben Johnson came out. He's a Chicago Bear or Chicago Cubs guy. You're Marquee Network. Yeah. I'm not going to put you in a bad spot. Anyways, what do you think about the Bulls though? Are you getting into the Bulls?
Am I getting into the Bulls? I need the Bulls to give me a reason to get into them, which is kind of happening lately with the half court wondery and things like that. I'm very anti boring middle of the road Eastern Conference basketball. Like, you want to put me to sleep, like play Cavs and Wizards in the third quarter of a 20-point deficit, and I'm going to go right to sleep. The Bulls, there's some optimism there. You know what I'm into is the Connor Bedardness of it all.
That's a great one. Yeah.
That, I think, young kid, somebody that they can build around. And I was down in Wrigleyville for the Winter Classic, man, and the vibe around the Blackhawks, even when they're not very good, it's really my first time being in like a true hockey market. Sharks don't count. For the first time, like being in like a true legacy hockey market.
Hold on. You don't think the San Diego Gulls were a true hockey market? How dare you?
How dare I? Yeah, it's you could count the fans on one hand, and you could hear somebody's phone ring even when the game's going on. Californians in hockey. But that part I'm really getting into. And look, I work across the street from Wrigley Field. Probably somebody with the Cubs signs my check, right? But
that's why I dropped that question. I was like, it took me a second for the thing. I was like, when Terry Benedict realizes that his casino is ripped off, it was a tape. I'm like, of course you're a Cubs person. I don't even want to put you in a bad spot.
But I will say that I do like this. Shota doesn't speak a ton of English in public, but he shows up in a Walter Payton jersey, right? Like, he can play Go Cubs Go on an acoustic guitar. The man gets it. He throws flames out there. He gets it up here. Marketing genius. Attach yourself to the market, man, but there's plenty of good reasons why. In my first 5 months, I probably had 28,000 Italian beef sandwiches.
Nice.
Dipped, hot peppers, essential. So yeah, man, I'm immersing myself in the culture pretty quickly. And anything that revolves around beer and meat, I'm probably going to be fine with. So yeah, so far so good. It is nice to have a little bit of optimism after the fired offensive coordinator, fired coach, 10-game losing streak disaster that wore on my psyche. It's nice to have a little bit of optimism. Yes, they've won the offseason. We don't know if that's going to help them win games. But it sure looks like they might. Again, if they're stocking Ben Johnson, I'm buying right now.
I love it. Well, Scott, thank you so much for being here. Great getting to know you a little bit better. And again, this is a relationship that I anticipate growing. First of all, because you work for one of my best friends, and he's going to make you come on the show time and time again. So we really appreciate you being here. We'll probably catch up with you either before the draft or after the draft. Who knows? Maybe we will be at the draft together. We'll do our draft coverage together. So many possibilities for us, but I want to thank you so much for being here, and then we'll do it again real soon.
Sounds good, man. Thanks for the time, and we'll catch up again real soon.
All right. So for Scott, I'm Adam. Thank you so much for watching this weekend. We will be back next week for Take It to the Rank. So until that time, Sammy, go ahead and play us out.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Adam Rank on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.